Hey everyone, Mr. DVB here. So today I'm bringing you guys my ranking for my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2019. As always, there are a ton of movies coming out this year and I couldn't fit every single one onto my list. So down below in the comment section you will find my honorable mentions. With that being said, let's jump right into this ranking. So coming in at number 10, we have John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, or Parabellum, or whatever. I don't really know how to pronounce the subtitle, but I am looking forward to this movie a ton because I love the first two John Wick films. I actually recently picked them up on 4K Blu-ray and rewatched them, and they were just awesome as always, especially with the updated quality and everything. But these are really badass action movies. Keanu Reeves is great in these movies, definitely one of his best roles in a while. He's super awesome, he's very badass, there's a lot of awesome action sequences in the two of them, especially in the second one. That has even more action than the first film, and because of that I like it more. The story in these films are pretty weak overall, but that's not really what you're watching them for. You're watching them to see Keanu Reeves stab guys in their ear canals with pencils, and that's what you get in this franchise. So I'm really looking forward to the third one overall, though, because of the fact that in this film, John Wick is now like an international target for a bunch of hitmen to go after, so it's just going to be all-out action throughout this movie, and that's something I'm looking forward to. Keanu Reeves came out and said that he wanted to see this character suffer in this movie, so that's an aspect that we haven't really seen in the previous two films as far as the character getting his ass kicked, since he is the badass. So I think this time around we're going to see him losing a bunch of fights, and that's something I'm looking forward to seeing with this character. So overall, John Wick Chapter 3 takes the number 10 spot on my list. Coming in at number 9, we have Godzilla, King of Monsters. So when it comes to the 2014 Godzilla movie, I'm kind of in the middle with it. I think all of the Godzilla stuff in that film was fantastic. The rest of it was kind of average in my opinion, and normally that wouldn't be a huge deal, but when you think about it, Godzilla's only in that movie for like 8 minutes of screen time, so it is a pretty big problem with that movie, and overall I found it to just be average. Going into this film, I do have those kind of worries carrying over, but at the same time, this movie is about Godzilla versus like 3 or 4 other big monsters, so I don't think they're going to only have 8 minutes of screen time for this character. I think we're going to see a lot more, considering this is just one big giant monster clash, and that is why I'm looking forward to this movie a ton right now. The special effects look really nice, obviously. The cast this time around is a lot better in my opinion. We have Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things, who is a great actress. We have Vera Farmiga in this movie, and overall I just think it looks like it's going to be a great sequel, so I'm really hoping this film is going to be a blast. Coming in at number 8 is Toy Story 4. So when it comes to the first 3 Toy Story movies, I love them all. They're genuine classics. Toy Story 2 is probably my favorite of them, especially that opening sequence. I have like every bit of dialogue and music embedded in my head. With that being said, the reason I'm not looking forward to Toy Story 4 as much as some of the other movies this year is because, like a lot of other people, I think this movie is pretty unnecessary. After all, Toy Story 3 ended on such a great note, but with that being said, I do trust Pixar, and I think they are going to give us a really good sequel here. This time around we're following our classic cast of characters as they teach this new toy Forky really what it is to be a toy. As well, on top of that, Bo Peep is returning and there's some kind of love story with this movie, and you know, I'm just looking forward to it nonetheless because I do trust Pixar, like I said. I think, honestly, I'll be more excited for this movie once they give us a real trailer, because the teaser trailers they've shown us so far have done absolutely nothing for me. They're just very average and show us pretty much nothing. So, we'll see. I am still very excited for this movie, though. Moving on to number 7, we have the live-action, quote-unquote, remake of The Lion King. So The Lion King is obviously one of the most classic Disney movies of all time. It is widely considered to be their best by many people. I wouldn't consider it their best per se, but I do recognize it as being a fantastic animated movie. I really like what Disney's been doing with some of their live-action remakes recently, especially Jungle Book. Yeah, really just Jungle Book, actually. I don't think I like any of the other ones. With that being said, I do think that Lion King will be great. It's being directed by Jon Favreau, who directed The Jungle Book. The special effects in the movie look fantastic, and the trailer just got me super excited. Hearing that music and seeing the sunset of Africa, it's so beautiful, even though it probably is CGI. I don't really know how this is considered live action, if they're recording actual, parts of Africa and then just CGIing the characters in. I don't know. I think that'd be way too expensive. But we'll see. I haven't read anything up on that, but yeah, I am very looking forward to seeing where this movie would go. The thing I'm most interested with it is that, how they're going to handle the running time, because obviously these live-action remakes are longer than the original animated versions. The original Lion King, I think, is only like an hour and 16 or 20 minutes or so once you take away credits. So because of that, and the fact that the live-action film is probably going to be more like an hour and 50, I'm wondering what they're going to do with that extra 30 minutes. Are they going to develop some of the characters more? Is there going to be more fun and adventurous scenes? One of the things I'm kind of hoping they do is kind of, add in some more screen time between Simba being a kid and becoming an adult, because I always felt that part of the movie felt very rushed. So I think that's a perfect area to put some of that screen time in. Overall, though, I cannot wait to see where they go with this movie, and I cannot wait to see what all these characters are going to look like on the big screen in live action or modern day CGI. On to number 6, we have the only horror film making it onto this list, and that is It Chapter 2. The very first It was released in 2017, and I absolutely love the movie. As a matter of fact, it was probably my favorite film of 2017. I just thought it was so enjoyable. The cast was fantastic. The child actors in that movie were some of the best I've seen of all time. They were just hilarious, and I enjoyed all of their performances throughout. On top of that, It was a very creepy character, or Pennywise, I mean. The movie itself wasn't exactly scary, though. That was probably my biggest problem with it. It was definitely a creepy and disturbing film, but I wouldn't say it genuinely scared me at all. So I'm hoping that the second film works on that aspect a lot more. I think this second film is going to be much more of a psychological thriller, considering that Pennywise isn't really trying to eat them as adults. He's just going to be screwing around with them. So I think that's an aspect that will be really interesting to see. Overall, the adult cast looks pretty good so far. I'm not a big fan of some of the casting choices, mainly James McAvoy. I think he's just too big of an actor to be in this movie, and I wanted them to use more smaller, unknown people. But with that being said, I cannot wait to see where It Chapter 2 goes. Obviously, when it comes to the 90s miniseries, a lot of people consider the adult part to be the weakest, so I think this is really, a big time for this film to shine by showing us a good version of that part of the novel. So it's definitely one of my most anticipated movies of 2019. Moving on to number 5, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. So I'm very glad that I actually recorded this video now, because originally I didn't even know if this film was going to make it onto my list, but now that the trailer is out and I've seen some of the footage from this movie, I am definitely a lot more excited for this film now. I think the idea of Peter Parker going into Europe and then going around and fighting villains there is really cool, because if I have to be honest, I'm a little bit sick of the New York setting. We see it in every single MCU film pretty much, and it just gets a little bit repetitive after a while. So I think seeing Venice and, Great Britain and all these other locations is going to be very interesting and unique for Spider-Man, since we've never seen him in any of those locations in a Spider-Man movie before. So I think that's very interesting. On top of that, Jake Gyllenhaal is playing Mysterio, who is one of my favorite villains from the comics. Now, a lot of people are speculating that it might actually be a good guy in this film, but I don't think that's the case. I think the giant rock monster, which at first I thought was Sandman, and then Hydro Man, and then the Molten guy, I think those are actually all just projections or whatever that are being created by Mysterio as an illusion to kind of trick people into thinking that he's this hero, so everyone can look up to him as a savior. Very similar to what Syndrome did in Incredibles. This is a very Mysterio type thing, so even though I would love to see Hydro Man and Sandman in this movie, I don't think that's the case. I think those are just illusions created by this character, and if that's the case, I think that'd be a really cool twist. It definitely wouldn't be as surprising as the Vulture twist in Homecoming, but it still would be a really cool thing to put into the movie. Other than that, I just think this movie looks like it's going to be a total blast. It does take place after Endgame, this is confirmed, so, it's a little bit weird that they would show the trailer for this now. I guess everybody technically knew that Spider-Man wasn't dead, so there's not really much of a surprise there, but I still probably would have waited a little bit for this trailer, but overall, I cannot wait for Far From Home. I'm definitely more excited for it than I was beforehand. Moving on to number 4, we have Joker, which is an R-rated interpretation of this character being played by Joaquin Phoenix. So when this movie was first announced, I was actually rather annoyed, because I find that the DCU is focusing way too much on just random movies like Suicide Squad 2, Shazam, and then this Harley Quinn movie that's coming out. All of these things before we're even seeing a Flash or a Batman film. I just think they're really mishandling this universe. But once I found out that Joaquin Phoenix was going to be playing the Joker and that this wasn't actually going to be taking place in the same series, I was a lot more excited because Joaquin Phoenix is a fantastic actor. I definitely see him handling this character very well. There's the huge potential that this movie will be rated R. I honestly think that's going to be happening, and that's going to be really, really awesome. We don't need to see, a ton of swearing and sexual stuff in this movie. I just think that, feeling in that rating could definitely help this movie be a little bit better by showing us some more creepy aspects of the character. It could be more violent, I guess, in other aspects like that, but overall, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Gotham City, I think, is the coolest comic book location, so I'm hoping they stick to the comics with that and actually show us kind of like that gothic architecture we saw in the Tim Burton movies and in the comics, and not just giving us some modern-day looking city like we did in the Dark Knight trilogy. Overall, I love that the film is taking place in the 80s. I think that's kind of the best decade for Batman to be set, so overall, I'm very, very excited for this movie, and I cannot wait to see where this movie goes. On to number 3, we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is the newest film being brought to us by Quentin Tarantino, who is one of my favorite directors of all time. This film is set in 1969 and is following an actor and a stuntman who are basically out of their jobs trying to find new work, and of course this film is somehow tied in with the Charles Manson murders, so I'm very interested in seeing where this film is going to go. I think it's a really intriguing concept. There's not too much known about it right now. We've seen a few images of some of the actors, like Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. Margot Robbie is playing Sharon Tate in this, who is obviously the actress that was murdered. Spoiler alert, but I'm very interested in this film. I think it looks really cool so far from the photos that we've seen. We don't even have a trailer for this yet, but Quentin Tarantino is just that good of a director that I have that much faith in this movie. I think it's going to be great, and I really, really am interested in watching this movie and seeing exactly what it's all about, because I really have no idea what the tone of this movie is going to be. Obviously, they're going to have to handle some stuff seriously, like the Charles Manson murder part of the movie, but yeah, I'm interested in seeing what this film is. Coming in at number 2 is Avengers Endgame, the biggest movie of 2019, without a doubt, and like I said, it is my second most anticipated of the year. I cannot wait to see where this movie goes because I loved Infinity War so much. It ended on such an insane note with Thanos killing half of the universe, including the majority of our favorite superheroes, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how they will handle that. I think everyone knows that they're not going to all stay dead. They're going to have some way of bringing those characters back, but really the question right now is how. Who is going to bring them back? What's going to happen to the other characters? Is there going to be any big deaths in this movie? My prediction is that Captain America and Iron Man are probably going to bite the dust on this one. No pun intended, but it's true. I think there's going to be a lot of, high stakes going into this movie. I cannot wait to see Thanos' return. I'm hoping we can see him fully armored this time when he takes on the Avengers, and overall, I just think this is going to be a huge event. This is really the movie that we were all waiting for. I mean, I think Infinity War was definitely the team-up film, and this is the film where they take down the villain, and we see some of our heroes go down in a heroic finale. But yeah, I'm very excited for Endgame. I think it's going to be a huge cinematic event, and I cannot wait for it. Coming in at number 1 is Star Wars Episode 9, and then that's it because we don't know the subtitle for this movie. I'm hoping it's revealed very soon. But yes, obviously, as you guys know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have a ton of posters in my room. You can't see them, but I do have them. I've been a fan of this series ever since I was probably like 3 or 4 years old. I don't know. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love every film in their own way. Even The Last Jedi, which I did have a ton of issues with, I still love aspects of that film. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this trilogy will wrap everything up. J.J. Abrams was great with The Force Awakens. I think despite the fact that movie's story was very similar to A New Hope, he brought back the series in a great way, gave us some really great new characters. I don't care what people say. I really enjoy Rey and Kylo Ren. I think they're two of the best Star Wars characters. Episode 8, in my opinion, did some justice for those characters. I loved Kylo Ren in Episode 8. I thought he was an even better character in that movie. And there were some really cool moments in that film, but the story was definitely weaker overall, and I do think there was a lot of things that they definitely screwed up with that movie. But I think Episode 9 could honestly redeem this trilogy. The biggest problem that could possibly happen from this is, is J.J. Abrams going to be sticking with his original plan, or is he going to be going with what Rian Johnson has set up? I think that's going to leave this trilogy feeling a little bit disjointed either way. But still, despite that, possible concern I have, I still cannot wait to see where this trilogy is going, because, this is the end of this trilogy, and it's been an adventure. So, there you go, guys. That is my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2019. I will see you guys next time. We'll be talking about my top 10 most anticipated games that are upcoming, not specifically 2019 release games, just upcoming in general. But thank you all for watching this, and I'll see you next time.